start with your update. And I'll go and try and see if I can set up the live stream on Facebook.
Okay, well, it's good to be with all of you again. And we had a nice session yesterday.
Buenas
Seemed to be
tardes
well
a todos
received
ustedes presentes.
on
Ayer tuvimos una muy buena
podcast. I guess
sesión.
many of you
Estén
were
al tanto, un podcast de Nam Rasa,
on
no
there, or
invitado.
maybe heard it after it had been live, heard the recording.
Habrán estado allí presentes en
But it
vivo,
was,
habrán escuchado luego de que se fue grabado.
It was a nice opportunity to
Fue una buena
have
oportunidad
exposure to
para exponerme, por decirlo así,
a number of devotees who
a todo un número de devotos
didn't have exposure to myself and history and so
ponerme a mi
forth. And I
propia
think it
persona,
was,
la historia que tuve que pensar, que vivir.
refreshing for some of them. So I was moved by the experience and the response myself. So that was nice. And apparently they want to do it again.
Aparentemente ellos quieren hacerlo nuevamente.
Otherwise, everything's good at Audarya. Right now I'm in Palo Alto and Vrindavan. I've set up this arrangement here that we used yesterday for the Zoom call, for Namrasa's call, using it for the first time on the Zoom call. And ironically, we set it down here because we have a faster internet. Still, we had problems yesterday, but the problems weren't with the internet. They were with my computer. So we've solved that problem, I believe. But I think this is a pretty good setup, and my thanks to Kamalakshan Krishnangi, who donated some funds to help buy the equipment they were using, lighting and microphone and so forth. And I had mentioned before that we're going to set up a studio for such recordings at Audarya, and we're in the midst of that, and some of that involves Seva from Chitahari, who's on his way to Audarya to work on that, among other things, which would be nice. Chitahari, Abai, Ganesh, they're like original members of Audarya before the temple was ever built there. I asked a lot of them in those days, and they rose to the occasion, to their credit, all of them. Right now, Abai is visiting his parents. He just left.
Ahora Abai está visitando a sus padres
for a couple of weeks in Massachusetts. And by the time he returns, Chitahari should be here.
Cuando regrese, Chitahari va a estar aquí.
That's going on. I had mentioned that we had
mencionado que
retired the commercial end of our dairy.
Hemos retirado el lado comercial de la distribución de leche aquí.
ISKCON Temple in
Silicon Valley, en Silicon Valley, quien solía recibir
was our main client. They asked if we couldn't supply milk just for the deities. They were also selling to the community, and so we figured out how to do that. So that's still toned down from where it was, but for at least a few months we'll be doing that. But it's been very good for the cows.
Estamos teniendo algunas dificultades técnicas, disculpen. Otros devotos de otros Sion me están escuchando y quizás ustedes de habla hispana no me están escuchando también. Como digo, la opción de interpretación no me ha llegado esta vez y estoy intentando de otra manera, pero parece ser que no está funcionando.
Peacock is showing his full feathers now, dancing for everyone. And I'm quite busy with my book. I'm going over chapters in the last section, sending to Haridas, sending them back to me, and then I'm looking at his comments, and then Vrindavan is meanwhile edited the other chapters and continuing to edit, and then I've got to go back and look at all of her work and suggestions and whatnot. And then I'm working with Padmanabh Maharaj in his book also. So and there are many other things keeping me busy these days. Today I'm going to have visit Vamsidhari in San Francisco. That would be nice. Then I should return to Audaria Monday or Tuesday. That's the news. So what are the questions?
Okay, yeah, so far we didn't get that many questions, but we've had some technical difficulties, and I know you're very empathetic to technical difficulties. Not streaming on Facebook again for whatever reason, and Pamanava Swami is having difficulties with the Spanish translation this morning. So if everyone can make sure they pressed English and mute
Voy a
original
hacer un intento
audio,
más de traducción.
that will
Parece ser que no
help.
va a estar funcionando el día de hoy por algún problema que hay en Zoom,
But
sinceramente.
yeah, we just may
Voy a
have a
estar
day
intentando
where
traducir, pero
it's
si
gonna be a
el
little
devoto, quien está traduciendo el
less successful than we'd like it
polaco,
to be.
se mantiene escuchándome a
Okay,
mí y eso
so
le perturba
so
su
far I
traducción,
only
quizás
have 3
tenga que
questions. So if
interrumpirla.
anyone has questions,
Y
because
coménteme si aún
we're a
Can I
little
así
interject
distracted, you
just for a
can
minute?
write them into
si me
the
siguen
chat.
Can you hear me?
escuchando
We'll pick them up.
demasiado
So Eric, you're
Archon, can
bajo
you
en
hear me?
comparación a
first.
Siratipurari.
Dandavats, good morning, Maharaj. Nice to see you.
Una pregunta de Eric que dice Dandavat.
So my question is regarding the past time of Gadadhar Pandit's meeting with his guru, Pundarika Vidyanidhi. So I was recently listening to a lecture that you gave back in 2005 regarding the topic of essential principles of spiritual life within Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And in the beginning of the lecture, you mentioned a story of Gadadhar Pandit's meeting with his guru for the first time and how Gadadhar was confused by his guru's apparent material opulence and unconventional behavior, such as smoking hookah, and this was cited as an example of how advanced Vaishnavas might not necessarily follow the letter of the law because they are firmly established in the spirit of the law or the essence of spiritual life. However, I'm still a little confused as to why a self-realized person or an advanced Vaishnav such as Pundarika Vidyanidhi would engage in or have an affinity or apparent affinity for such activities. All the instances I'm aware of in which advanced devotees disregard rules and regulations usually seem to involve some sort of greater purpose or service behind such activities. Like, I think there's the pastime of Srila Prabhupada taking snuff to stay up to work on translation of Srimad Bhagavatam, but I'm a little confused as to what the purpose would be in this case, though maybe I'm missing something. Could you please clarify this?
Podría, por favor, aclarar un poco al respecto.
Well, I think that
Yo creo que
among the associates of
entre los
Chaitanya
asociados de
Mahaprabhu, of which
Chaitanya
there are
Mahaprabhu,
many eternal
los cuales hay
associates
muchos,
of Krishna appearing with him
asociados de Krishna
in
apareciendo con
Gaur
él
Lila.
con el Gaur Lila.
Some of them
Algunos de ellos
were singled out by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu
fueron
as
destacados por Chaitanya
examples
Mahaprabhu como ejemplos
who could teach
que podrían
and
enseñar,
and set
podrían instruir a
examples
otros,
of
establecer un
behavior,
ejemplo a otros,
principally
ejemplo ideal de conducta. Por
that would be
ejemplo,
the Goswamis, Rupa Sanatan, who he
por
personally
ejemplo, los Goswami,
taught,
Rupa,
and Jiva
Sanatan,
Goswami, who was
Jiva
taught by
Goswami,
Nityananda and
quien fue
his
instruido por
uncles and
Nityananda,
so forth, and Venkata Bhatta, Gopal Bhatta, and so forth.
Gopal Bhatta, etc.
They were
Ellos
really singled out by
fueron
Chaitanya
especialmente
Mahaprabhu
destacados, señalados por Chaitanya Mahaprabhu,
amongst his eternal servants to set an example and
entre sus
for
sirvientes
all of
eternos fueron
us.
señalados
I
para
would say the
establecer un ejemplo para
Dwadasa
nosotros.
did so.
También diría los Dwadasa Gopal hicieron ello.
The example of the Goswamis is perhaps more
Pero bueno, el ejemplo de los
perfect because
Goswamis
it
quizás es más
include
apropiado,
excesses of
ya que no
bhava,
incluye
which cause, for example, the Dwadasa
excesos de
Gopals
bhava
sometimes
que
act like
llevan a que uno se comporte,
their bhava
de
to
forma poco
manifest in their sadhaka data, their bhava as cowherds. We don't find, for example,
Dwadasa
bhava
Gopals.
gopis manifesting in the Goswamis.
No vemos, por ejemplo, en el caso de los Goswamis, el bhava de las gopis manifestándose a través de ellos, vistiéndose como gopis o cosas así.
incidences in the lives of some of the Dwadasa Gopalas as they're
Pero sí
described.
encontramos en cierta medida algunos de esos incidentes en la vida de los Dwadasa Gopalas, tal como descrito en la Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Unconventional also in his behavior.
Nityananda Prabhu también fue poco convencional en su comportamiento.
Initiated and his followers initiated and so forth, the Dwadasa Gopalas. In particular, as I mentioned,
como sus seguidores quienes
the
iniciaron
Goswamis,
bastantes personas tenían este comportamiento. Por otro lado, los Goswamis, Rupa, Sanatana, etc.
They, by contrast,
ellos en contraste,
of course, they were writing many books.
Obviamente ellos escribirían muchos libros.
Institutionalizing in this way the teachings, making them
lugar,
accessible to the literature, and setting a perfect
y establecerían un ejemplo
example of how
perfecto
of a sadhaka's life.
Lo que es la vida
we
de un
can't say that
sadhaka.
Nityananda Prabhu was doing that.
No podemos decir que
And
Nityananda
why
estaba
he would
haciendo
do
eso y por
what he
qué
did
él haría lo que hizo.
It has to be connected with the inner life.
Ello debe ser conectado con la vida interna de
and
Nitai
other associates.
de otros
I mentioned
asociados.
Nitai and his associates to contrast
Que no
them
debería
with the
contrastarlos a
Goswamis with regard to the specific point that you're making
al punto
of
específico
setting an example
que ellos
that
están haciendo
sadhakas
de
like
establecer un ejemplo
yourself could relate to.
en relación a quienes sadhakas como
Goswamis
tú puedan
were
conectarse.
perfect in that
Los
regard.
Goswamis eran
And
perfectos
they're
en ese
singled
sentido.
out in that way, described in that
Fueron
way, and so forth.
destacados de esa forma,
Nityananda
escritos de
Prabhu
esa forma. Por otro lado, Nityananda
is not
Prabhu
described in that way.
no está escrito de esa manera.
And he would do things
Y
like
haría cosas tales como
drink milk from the teat of a cow.
como beber leche de
and,
la ubre de una vaca,
would do other things like swim in the Ganges with alligators.
nadar en el Ganges con cocodrilos.
The former could be imitated, the latter could not.
Hasta un punto
But
podemos
it's
evitarlo.
also said that sometimes he
imitar
would
este tipo de
nurse from, I think, Malini Devi. And so these are all activities that
Todas
are
estas son actividades
driven by the internal life, the bhav of Nityananda Prabhu in Krishna Lila. And so more so is the case with many other associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who are not per se teaching. We go to Pundarika Vidyanidhi, who is the guru of Gadadhar Pandit. Well, he must have had some other disciples, I suppose we could assume. But he is by no means singled out as someone who is we're to look to, for an example, how to conduct ourselves. Now, that said, yes, Mukunda took the young Gadadhar to meet Pundarika Vidyanidhi, and told him today a great Vaishnava is coming. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called out Pundarik Bhap, Pundarik Bhap. Nobody knew what he was talking about. Apparently Mukunda could understand. And so he brought Gadadhar Pandit, and Pundarik Vidyanidhi was being carried on a palanquin. And he was not dressed like a sadhu, but dressed like someone who is concerned about their attire and external appearance, kind of a fancy Dan or something like that, a fop, is perhaps the word to use. And again, carried on a palanquin. And now, smoking a hookah, I did mention that it has been mentioned. I have to say I haven't seen that written in the scripture, and that may have been something that someone like Puja Sri Maharaj said, who might think I first heard that Leela, which could have been an exaggeration to emphasize the point that his conduct was not that readily corresponded with what one would expect
lo que uno
from
esperaría
an advanced Vaishnava,
de un Vaishnava
teaching by
avanzado
example and so
que
on and so
enseñaría
forth. So
por
regardless of the
ejemplo.
details,
Sí.
but you
La
are
mayoría de
asking a
estos
little bit
detalles.
about the detail,
Tú
like,
estás preguntando un poco más en relación
why
a los
would he
detalles.
smoke, or
O por qué
something.
él fumaría, cosas así.
I wouldn't find it pleasurable
Entonces,
myself
obviamente,
necessarily. What was in
personalmente,
the hookah, I don't
no
know.
encontraría eso
Or what
placentero
he
fumar
smoked,
un
if he
pipa,
smoked, but
si él
in
fumaba o no
general,
fumaba, pero bueno, sí, en
let's
general,
just say his behavior was
comportamiento de Pundarik
unconventional to the extent that Gadadhar
poco
thought,
convencional hasta el punto que Gadadhar pensó,
what kind of Vaishnava is this?
¿qué clase de Vaishnava es
And
este?
understanding that, Mukunda
Entendiendo eso,
began to chant verses
Mukunda
from the
comenzó a cantar
Bhagavatam.
versos del Bhagavatam.
I believe he chanted
Creo que él cantó
Ho Bhakiyam Stanakala Kutam,
este verso del
the
Bhagavatam,
verse
verso del Bhagavatam
glorifying Krishna
que glorifica
in
a
terms of
Krishna,
how he dealt
en
with
términos de cómo él lidió
Putana.
con Putana.
Putana was, of course,
Putana
not a
obviamente
devotee, but dressed
una
as a
devota,
devotee
estaba vestida como
and
una devota
externally
y externamente
appeared to be in Vatsalya Bhava, in
apareció
parental
presentarse como
love
estar en
for Krishna
Vatsalya
as a
Bhava.
nursemaid. But
Nieta de
internally, she had
Krishna.
an entirely different motive.
Internamente
Here at Puerto Rico, we have the
era un amor totalmente
reverse.
diferente. Entonces aquí
Externally, he
Pundarik es
doesn't look
lo
like a
opuesto.
devotee because he
Externamente
conducting
no se ve como
himself
un
in
devoto
standard ways.
ni se
But
comporta de tal
internally,
manera estándar, aparente. Pero internamente,
Mukunda could understand his position, so he chanted a verse
pudo comprender su posición y él cantó este verso,
would be compelling, in particular to someone in Vatsalya
el
Rasa,
cual sería especialmente llamativo para alguien en Vatsalya Rasa, este verso.
describing an instance where there was an impersonation of Vatsalya Rasa and coming into the life and Leela of Krishna and endangering him, and so on and so forth. So at any rate, when he heard the verse chanted, when Pundarik heard the verse chanted by Mukunda, he fell off the palanquin into a trance, and his body was overwhelmed with ecstatic symptoms, and so on and so forth. And so Gadadhar could understand, oh, this is an extraordinary Vaishnava. And Vaishnavas sometimes, their inner motive cannot be understood, and their external appearance may appear to contradict it. So we're cautioned about making judgments in terms of behavior of Vaishnavas. Not that there isn't a standard that should be observed. And Gadadhar was right in one sense for thinking the way he did. But this was an extraordinary circumstance, and it was proved by Mukunda's, through his citing of the verse, what was the inner preoccupation, or that the inner preoccupation of Pundarika Vidyanidhi was extraordinary and supramundane, so on and so forth. All that said, why he kept himself in a materially comfortable and opulent set of circumstances in comparison to the Goswamis or even the Dwadasa Gopals, who in Sakya-rasa were, for the most part, dressed as Vaishnavas and conducted themselves in ways that would be serve as a good example for sadhakas. So, exactly what he took pleasure in or appeared to, details of that, really we don't know, but overall, why he conducted himself in ways, there could be any number of answers. To give a more modern example, Gorkashore Das Babaji Maharaj sometimes dressed himself like a worldly person, concerned about vanity and so on and so forth. And what his motive was to keep people away from him, who would come and ask for his blessings, but really weren't that interested. So it was, and he did the opposite as well, by taking up a residence in the fields where people would pass so that nobody would come and think he was unclean or whatnot. But on occasion, he also dressed himself as a worldly person to the extreme to keep people away from him. So it's clear what his motive was there. What was the motive of Gadadhar Pandit?
La motivación de Gadadhar
How it
Pandit,
pertained to the circumstances in Gaur Lila, I really don't know.
correspondía con las circunstancias del Gaur Lila, realmente no sé.
Tend to think that
Pero
they
pensaría
were
que
driven more by his internal life in Krishna Lila, wherein he is the father of Radharani. So a very fit
lo conectaría más con su amor interno al Krishna
if you
Lila,
will,
donde él
for
es el padre de
Pundarik.
Radharani.
He may have been the only disciple of Pundarik.
Quizá
Excuse me,
Gadadhar
the only disciple of Gadadhar. Gadadhar is Radha appearing in Gaur Lila.
Gadadhar es Radha
Pundarik is
apareciendo en Gaur Lila.
Vrishabhanu Maharaj, the father of
Pundarik es
Radharani,
Vrishabhanu
appearing in Gaur Lila.
El padre de Radha
Mukunda
apareciendo en Gaur Lila.
wanted to connect
Mukunda
them.
quería conectarlos.
When Gadadhar realized that he had misjudged and in his mind offended Pundarik, Mahaprabhu suggested he should get initiated by him. We don't have any other record of anyone being initiated by Pundarik. Maybe he had other disciples, but it's very likely that he was internally absorbed in the bhav of in and out, going in and out of the bhav of Vrishabhanu Maharaj. And you know, Vrishabhanu Maharaj conducted himself as within the Calvary community as royalty. They're the two Rajas, so to speak, Nanda Maharaj, Nandaraj, and Vrishabhanu Maharaj. They're the two principal leaders,
los dos líderes principales.
And they had, kind of a royal position.
Una posición imperial, por decirlo así.
Not as Kshatriyas, but within the community of Kauravas.
Dentro de la comunidad de pastores.
They dressed in fine silks and so on and so forth.
Se vestían con seda fina, etc.
I don't know if they smoked.
No sé si ellos fumaban o no.
But again, we don't know the details. But I would think that Pundarik was not living in Gaur Lila as a teacher of Krishna Bhakti, and we have no record of him establishing a preaching center like the Dwadasa Gopals and so forth. But here he is, Vrishabhanu Maharaj in Gaur Lila. Mukunda is the person who brings them together with Radharani. So, does that help?
¿Ayuda eso?
Yes, I think that was a very comprehensive answer, kind of covered a lot of different angles of it. So yeah, that definitely helped. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Yeah, and there are other associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And typically what they did in terms of behaving out of the norm for sadhakas, in ways that we could also act, were combined with doing things that we couldn't possibly do, like ride on the back of a tiger, Bengali tiger, and tame him by chanting. So you have to look at some of the ways that they conducted themselves, which might have been outside of the norm for a sadhaka, in connection with the things that they did that sadhakas couldn't possibly do, which indicates their extraordinary position. I mean, these are not, to put it mildly, ordinary people. And to be Radharani's father and appear in Gaur Lila. Who could say all that's behind that, and thinking that it comes in his mind and how it influences how he acts and so forth. And there may be something written about that somewhere that could be found out, but in the main texts,
lo cual puede ser encontrado
there's
aquí,
not much
¿no?
information really about the life of
Pero los
Pundarika Vidyanidhi.
textos
So
centrales
I'm
no hay
glad I
mucha
could be helpful with
información
that.
sobre la
Another
vida de
question?
Pundarika Vidyanidhi. ¿Una otra pregunta?
Okay, Sham Saki has a question. She's having some issues due to
Una
our
pregunta.
issues, so we'll see if we can hear her. Sham
Veremos si la
Saki,
podemos escuchar.
You say she's having computer issues?
well, she's on the phone and there's problems with
Okay.
the system
Thank
today.
you.
So, it doesn't seem like we can hear her. She's muted.
Parece
She
ser que
could,
no se
if
la puede
you,
escuchar.
Sham Saki, you could
Ahí
try
Shamsaki.
typing something into the chat and we'll ask the question for you. Pamanava Swami, you want to ask your question?
Can you hear me, Guru Maharaj?
Yes.
Yeah, Pranam. Give me 1 second that I read the question in Spanish and I go back to you for 1 minute.
Okay.
Entonces, tenemos una pregunta de Shyam Das que menciona en un comentario un verso de Chaitanya Charitamrita en la sección Madhya Lila. Prabhupada menciona las gopis están clasificadas en 5 grupos: Sakis, Nitya Sakis, Prana Sakis, Priya Sakis y Prana Presta Sakis. Quería saber si puede comentar respecto de los roles de cada grupo de gopis y en el caso de los priya-narma-sakhas con cuál de ellas tiene más relación o si es distinto a ello.
Ruvakya, can you hear me? Yes, so you're better now. Nice to see you on the video, so all the Polish devotees can be included.
But he can hear me also to me translating you, Guru Maharaj, in Spanish, so I don't know how he can do that, but I really appreciate his his capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So here is one question from Shyam Das, Guru Maharaj.
Okay.
And he mentions, in one commentary to one verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita and Madhya Lila, Srila Prabhupada mentions that the gopis are classified in 5 groups: the Sakis, Nitya Sakis, Prana Sakis, Priya Sakis, and Parapresta Sakis. I would like to know if you could comment about the different roles of each group of gopis, and in the case of the priya-narma-sakhas, which group of gopis is more connected to the priya-narma-sakhas, if there is any connection between them at all.
Yes, I think the five groups are mentioned, right?
Yo creo que estos 5 grupos son mencionados.
So, examples would be of the, Marcia, you can correct me if my memory is not that good, but Parama-preshta Sakis would be like Lalita.
Parapresta Sakis serían, por ejemplo, Lalita y Vishaka.
And what's the next one down? Parama-preshta Priya Sakis. And then Priya Sakis are attendants of Lalita, Vishaka, and gopis of that category who are capable of being Yuteshwaris in the full sense, group leaders. Lalita Vishaka are capable of being group leaders, which means they could have their own group
son capaces de ser
and have
líderes de
romantic
grupo, pueden tener su propio grupo
with Krishna.
y tener
They're
relación
unique
directa con Krishna.
in that
Ellas son únicas en el
amongst
sentido
those
de que
gopis, and that they have,
entre esas
rather
gopis,
than
en lugar
form
de
their own
formar
group for having a relationship with Krishna and being somewhat, you could say, in competition with Radha,
con
they
Krishna estar
submit
en
themselves
competición
to
con Radha,
Radha. So they
ellas se entregan a Radha.
love Radha and Krishna
Ellas aman ellas quieren a Radha y Krishna
equally.
igualmente.
Other gopis who are
Otras
Parama-preshta Sakis and group leaders, they would love Krishna
Parapresta
more
Sakis,
than
líderes de
Radha.
grupo, van a amar a Krishna más que a
Lalita
Radha.
Vishaka, they're in a special category, and they're very important for our
Están en una categoría especial,
our focus,
especial para
whether
nuestro
it
foco,
be in the pursuit of
sea que el foco sea
Madhurya or
la búsqueda de Manjari Bhav
or Satyarasa.
Sakharas.
And they have Priya Sakis.
Ellas tienen Priya Sakis.
So to go to the other side, Chandravali, I think her Priya Sakis would be like Padma.
Entonces, si hablamos de
She plays a prominent
Chandravali,
role in the Leela,
Parapresta
assisting,
Sakis, una Priya Sakis de Chandravali sería Padma, que le
Chandravali,
asiste,
romantic pursuits and so
le va
forth.
a asistir en su búsqueda romántica
so,
con Krishna.
Parama-preshta Saki, Priya Sakis, and then you have Pran-sakis and
Y
Nitya-sakis.
luego uno tiene prana-sakis y
The
nitya-sakis.
latter two are both
Estas dos
examples of manjari bhav.
son ejemplos de
One is that the
manjari bhav.
Pran-sakis, they are
Uno son
eternal
prana-sakis,
associates.
son asociadas eternas.
And the Nitya-sakis,
Y las
I
nitya-sakis
think they would be sadhana
creo que
siddhas
serían sadhana-siddhas,
attained
quienes han alcanzado
manjari bhav.
manjari
And
bhav.
then there's a fifth category,
Y luego, una quinta categoría.
I believe also, but I think you only mentioned four. I think, or
No,
is there,
the fifth one is sakis, basically.
yeah, sakis, like maybe like Danishta.
Entonces, luego hay una quinta categoría de sakis, que serían ejemplos como quizá como Danishta.
So that said,
Entonces, dicho eso,
there are different ways to evaluate their
diferentes formas de evaluar
positions,
sus posiciones.
and they have different temperaments. Like I said,
Diferentes
Vishaka would have
temperamentos, como dije.
equal
La
love for Radha
Vishaka
and
tendrán
Krishna.
igual amor por
Whereas
Radha y Krishna,
in the case of
mientras que en el caso de
Pran-sakis, Nitya-sakis, the
Pran-sakis,
Manjaris, they have
las manjaris,
more love
ellas poseen mayor
Radha
amor por Radha
than Krishna.
que hace Krishna.
And
Un poco más.
their love for Radha augments their love for Krishna.
Y su amor por Radha
In the
aumenta
case
su
of
amor por Krishna.
Sakis,
En el caso de sakis,
they would have more love for Krishna.
ellas van a tener
So,
más amor por Krishna.
relative to the, and interestingly, you asked about
Tu
priya-narma-sakhas.
pregunta es todo esto en relación también a los
Manjaris are
priya-narma-sakhas.
also referred to as priya-narma-sakhis.
Las manjaris son conocidas como
As an
priya-narma-sakhis.
aside, but for priya-narma-sakhas, gopas
Pero para los
in
priya-narma-sakhas,
Sakyarasa, in
gopas en
pursuit of
Sakyarasa,
that ideal,
quien busca un
which
dicho ideal,
is Sakyarasa imbued with or
Sakyarasa
influenced by Madhurya Rasa,
Madhurya Rasa.
then they have as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in describing them,
Al escribir
and the difference between this particular category of Gopa
la diferencia
and
entre
the other
Gopa en
three
particular y esta
categories.
otra
The other
categoría,
three
los priya-narma-sakhas
categories are Sakhas,
y las otras tres
Priya-sakhas,
categorías, quienes son sakhas,
and
priya-sakhas
Suhrit-sakhas.
y suhrit-sakhas.
Sakhas are those who have Madhurya Sakyarasa, but it's combined with Dasya-rasa, although the Sakyarasa is prominent, so they're defined as being in Sakyarasa. And the Priya-sakhas have Keval, what we call Keval Bhav, it's exclusive Sakyarasa only. The Suhrit-sakhas, like the Sakhas that I mentioned earlier, whose love Sakyarasa is combined with Dasya. The Suhrit-sakhas,
En el caso de los suhrit-sakhas,
Sakyarasa is combined with Vatsalya. These two groups are examples of Sankul Rati, as opposed to Keval Rati. And then you have the priya-narma-sakhas, right? They're their own group. They have their own characteristics and Rupa Goswami describes them in Bhakti Rasamrita as also having their own Yuteshwaris. So along with having a group leader in Sakyarasa like Subal, Ujval, they have gopi group leaders as well, who under the influence of and in connection with, they become familiar sufficiently with and influenced by Sakyarasa to be able to assist Krishna in his romantic life, a particular type of friend. So those Yuteshwaris mentioned there in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, also in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu of Vishwanath Thakur, they would be Parama Presta Sakhis like Lalita, Vishaka. Our interest will be with mostly Vishaka or Lalita, as far as finding connecting with the group leader on that side, on the gopi side. I hope that answers your question.
Espero que yo responda a tu pregunta.
Anything else?
¿Algo más?
Ashram Maharaj, you have
Maharaj,
to
una
unmute
pregunta.
yourself.
Hare Krishna. Good morning, Guru Maharaj.
Good
And
morning.
all.
Buenos
This
días.
is a question I've been
Esta es una pregunta
meaning to ask you for some
que he
time,
querido preguntarle
but
durante un tiempo,
it came up last week in
pero
in
surgió
the
la semana
discussion
pasada
of different
en una
conceptions of
conversación que tuvimos
Veda-Veda-Tattva, the
sobre diversas concepciones de
Nimbarka's
Veda-Tattva,
Veda-Veda-Tattva and our
Veda-Veda-Tattva, los
acintya-bhedabheda.
Nimbarkas y nuestro
And
acintya-bhedabheda.
in the beginning of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu,
Comienzo el Bhakti
when Rupa
Rasamrita Sindhu,
Goswami's
cuando Rupa Goswami
discussing his definition of Shuddha Bhakti,
analiza
Uttama
su
Bhakti,
definición de Uttam
he
Bhakti,
discusses both overextending and
Analiza.
underextending the sense of anukulya, favorableness to Krishna.
analiza el
And
concepto
one
de ser
thing that I hear
favorable a Krishna en
sometimes
ambas direcciones.
is what sounds to me like an
Sobreextendiendo,
sometimes
entonces,
gross overextension of acintya-bhedabheda,
para que
where
la
it's sort of
extensión
kind
burda de
of batted
acintya-bhedabheda
around in
tiene
ways
que ver
that
con esto
just
en
kind of
relación a
seem
donde
too
uno
loose, sort of a,
parece demasiado
I don't know, I guess a catch-all
amplio,
response to things that are a little hard to wrap our
donde uno
heads around.
simplemente invoca
It's just
el
explained
término
away with,
acintya-bhedabheda,
acintya-bhedabheda
justificar
tattva.
algo que uno no puede entender y dice, no,
And,
acintya-bhedabheda
I've
tattva.
tried to sometimes explain that it
Y siempre,
really has a fairly narrow application.
por otro lado, trato de explicar que esto tiene una aplicación relativamente estrecha
With regard to the
en relación
relationship
a la
between the
relación
Lord
entre
and his various energies.
el
But
Señor y sus
I was just
diferentes
wondering if you could
energías,
help us
lo cual también puede
understand
ser demasiado estrecho, pero
the
me
actual
gustaría que
scope of acintya-bhedabheda
podría
tattva and
ayudarnos a entender
perhaps
el
more effective
alcance
ways
de
of
acintya-bhedabheda
responding
tattva
to
y
misunderstandings
formas
of how
más,
it's applied.
formas de responder a ciertas malinterpretaciones de cómo se aplica esta idea.
There are a couple of ways in which
Sí, hay ciertas formas
that meta-narrative is thought of, one of which
que
is
como la
more inclusive,
metanarrativa es
broader,
enseñada, una es
the
más
other of
inclusiva y
which
más
is
amplia y la
more
otra
narrow.
es un poco más estrecha.
And however, in either case,
Sin embargo, en ambos casos,
those explanations do not
tales
encompass the
explicaciones
kind
no
of things that you're referring to
incluyen el tipo de cosas a las que
when
ustedes se refieren.
devotees say,
Cuando los devotos
for
dicen, por ejemplo,
example, well, I don't know if we fell from Vaikuntha
no
or
sé
not,
si
it's
caímos
acintya.
o no de Vaikuntha, si caímos o no es
Acintya-bhedabheda.
acintya eso.
So that would
Acintya-bhedabheda.
be certainly
Entonces, obviamente sería un
not an
ejemplo de
appropriate
no apropiado
way to use
una forma
the
inapropiada de
term.
utilizar el término.
But the
Pero,
conservative or more narrow
por otro
way in
lado,
which it's used is,
la
as you
forma
mentioned,
más conservativa o estrecha en la
that
que una puede ser,
Bhagavan
en la que puede
has
ser utilizada es que
Shaktis,
Bhagavan posee Shaktis,
and they are that energy through which the energetic
son dicha
source
energía a
of
través
energy
de la que la
does
fuente
what
energética hace
he does.
hace lo
So
que hace.
the more,
Entonces,
for example, that the internal Shakti,
el
Swarup Shakti of
Shakti
Krishna,
interno, el Swarup Shakti de
is
Krishna,
manifest, the more the
cuanto más se
Godhead
manifiesta,
is moving.
aún más,
So if we look at
tanto
the
más Ser
extremes
Supremo se va a estar
within
moviendo. Tenemos estos dos
Godhead,
extremos.
from Brahman,
Por un lado tenemos Brahman,
Paramatma to
luego
Bhagavan,
Paramatma y luego
and
Bhagavan.
Bhagavan
Y Bhagavan
going further to Swayam Bhagavan,
yendo aún
Krishna.
más allá.
On the
Tenemos
one
a
hand, we
Swayam
have
Bhagavan
Brahman, which is
Krishna. Por el otro
still,
extremo tenemos a Brahman,
the
que está
absolute is not
quieto,
moving,
el absoluto no
and
se está
the Swarup
moviendo.
Shakti is not
El Swarup Shakti,
let's say, involved there
no está
prominently.
implicado,
The
involucrado
other
y
end of the
prominentemente.
spectrum,
El otro lado, el otro
even
extremo,
beyond the movement of
incluso
Narayan,
más
is the
allá del
movement of
movimiento de
Krishna,
Narayana,
which is
el movimiento de Krishna,
24/7, so to
el
speak.
cual es 24/7,
Even
como
up
dice en inglés,
at
24 horas 7
night under the
días.
influence of this
Ni siquiera
Swarup
duerme en la
Shakti.
noche porque
Not a moment to rest for him.
Swarup Shakti, no hay momento de
So
descanso
he's
para él.
animated by that.
Todo el punto es,
So
él
that's
está animado por
the,
eso.
so the energetic, the
El
Shaktiman,
energético,
God, and
Shaktiman,
and
Dios.
of course, then
Por
there's
otro lado, Shakti
the many Shaktis he has.
Realmente hay muchos Shakti
And
que
the three
posee.
principal ones being the internal
Los
energy, the
principales
external
son
energy,
la
and the
energía
marginal energy,
externa,
in
la energía
Prophet's
interna,
terms,
la
or
energía
the
marginal.
Swarup Shakti,
Términos de
the
Prabhupada,
Maya Shakti, and
Swarup Shakti, Maya
the Jiva
Shakti,
Shakti. And
Jiva Shakti.
the Maya Shakti is almost as mystical as the Swarup Shakti,
Tan
it has a
mística
different
como Swarup
function,
Shakti,
but
en
it's
relación
also
a cómo funciona.
magical in so many ways. And so the
Quizás no
Jiva,
al mismo nivel, pero sigue siendo muy
magical
mágica.
and extraordinary. But the narrow, again, explanation is
La
that
explicación más
Krishna
estrecha
and
de
his
esta
Shaktis
idea es
are
Krishna y
one
sus Shaktis son
and
uno
different,
y diferentes.
and they interpenetrate
Y se
one
interpenetran, se
another.
penetran unos a otros.
And what's inconceivable about that
Aquello que es inconcebible
is
al
that,
respecto es
well, how can something be one and different at the
cómo
same
algo
time?
puede ser
Although we
uno
can
y
give some
diferente
examples
al mismo tiempo. Y
from the
podemos dar
world
ejemplos
to
del
help us
mundo
understand it.
para ayudarnos a entender esto.
Such examples or analogies only go
Tales
so
ejemplos
far,
o
and
análisis
therefore,
llegan hasta
if you
cierto
want
punto,
to say
cierto alcance. Por lo
that
tanto, si tú
God
deseas
is
decir
immanent and transcendent at the
que
same
Dios es
time,
inmanente y
one
trascendente al
and
mismo
different
tiempo,
way,
uno y
that's a different way
diferente,
of saying it.
es otra forma diferente de decir esto mismo.
How is that possible?
Entonces, ¿cómo es esto posible?
It's not inconceivable.
No es inconcebible debido
It's
a que
possible
es posible
because he has inconceivable
debido
powers.
a que Dios posee poderes inconcebibles.
So we're not saying it's inconceivable.
Entonces no estamos
In
diciendo que
one
es
sense,
inconcebible en
we're
un
saying
sentido.
he has
Estamos
inconceivable
diciendo, Él
powers.
posee
If
poderes
you give that,
inconcebibles.
then it makes sense.
Si
He
tú
can do
aceptas
things
eso,
that
pues tiene sentido
otherwise
de que Él puede hacer cosas que de otra
wouldn't
forma
fit between our ears,
no
so to
encajarían
speak,
en tu
in our
cabeza.
head. So God has inconceivable
Entonces,
Shakti.
Dios posee
Who doesn't
Shakti
accept
inconcebible.
that? And because of that,
¿Quién no acepta
he
eso?
can
Debido a esto,
be present
Él puede estar presente
within everything and
dentro de
outside of
todo
everything, for
y
example,
fuera de todo,
at the same
por
time.
ejemplo, al mismo tiempo.
He can be within the material world,
Puede
within
estar dentro del mundo
orbit,
material,
if you will, of the Maya Shakti, and
dentro de
not
la
touched
órbita
by
del
it,
Maya
and
Shakti,
be outside of it.
y
He
no
can
ser
be
tocado por él,
outside
fuera
of
de
Mother
ello.
Yasoda's,
Puede estar fuera de
sitting on her lap,
Madre
and
Yashoda,
Mother
sentada en
Yasoda can
su
see herself inside of
regazo,
him. So
y
she's
Yashoda se ve a sí
inside of him.
misma dentro de él.
He's
Ella está
he's
dentro de
outside
ella.
of her. He's inside of her. She's
Fuera
outside
de
of
ella,
her.
dentro de
So
ella.
this is an example from the Lila
Un ejemplo en
that
Lila,
we don't try to explain it away.
el
We
cual no
say he
tratamos
can
de
do this by his
explicarlo en exceso hasta
inconceivable
anularlo, ¿no? Más encima. Él puede hacer
Shakti.
esto.
So that's the narrower explanation
Shakti
that you
inconcebible.
mentioned.
Esa es la
Relationship
explicación más
between
estrecha
God and
que usted menciona,
his
María.
powers.
La relación entre Dios y sus poderes, energía.
And from there comes the
Y a partir de ello,
what is it called?
viene esto
Shakti Parinambad
Shakti
doctrine
la doctrina de Shakti Parinambad,
of Vedanta as opposed to the
Vedanta,
Vivartavad, for
la
example,
diferencia al Vivartava,
of Shankar,
de Shankar,
which again is saying that God is the world,
dice
but
que
through his
Dios es el
Shaktis
mundo,
he is, which are one with him. And different from how are they one with him in one sense? Well, we say they're one because they're dependent upon him. They don't have an independent existence. This is ways to try to explain it a little bit, but ultimately, how he can be one and different, how he can be immanent and transcendent at the same time. It's because he has inconceivable powers. And the broader explanation then is, and I've heard this from Radharaman Goswami, Srivats Goswami in particular, that everything is acintya-bhedabheda. What he means by that, everything has some power and everything is one with its power and different from its power. Even in this world. So fire has heat and light, it's one with it and different from it. It's a bheda-bhed. So he extends it in a broader way, but not in any way that it can be used as loosely as the example I gave earlier, which I've heard, and I think it's the kind of thing that you're referring to. We have considerable body of commentary
Tenemos
and
un
so
cuerpo
forth to
considerable de
explain
comentarios
so many philosophical
para
points,
explicar tantos
all of
puntos
the philosophical
filosóficos.
points, really without having to throw up our hands and say, it's a
Podemos
acintya.
explicar todo
That's
eso
more of
sin necesidad de
an
simplemente
excuse
levantar
for
la mano y decir
not
es acintya. Es una
being
instancia,
a lack of willingness
puede terminarse en una
to
excusa,
take the
una falta de voluntad de nuestra
to do the
parte
work
de hacer
of
el trabajo
employing
necesario, de emplear
one's intelligence
nuestra
in
inteligencia,
sorting out
en tratar de
what the
determinar
actual scriptural conclusion
cuál es la
is
conclusión
about a
escritural
particular
verdadera
topic
acerca de un tema en particular.
that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says is something that will strengthen ultimately your resolve. Don't
Ese
avoid
ejercicio va a fortalecer
such
tu
discussions
determinación. No evites tales
that
discusiones, tales conversaciones.
come to that because they actually serve as an opportunity
Que
to
sirven
strengthen your faith and
como una
resolve.
oportunidad para fortalecer tu
So,
fe y
you know, the
determinación.
Bhagavatam is really
Entonces,
our
el
main text,
Bhagavatam,
and it's
de
in
hecho,
one
es
sense, it's
nuestro
really
texto central.
throws out
sentido,
a challenge to
nos
your
arroja
intellect,
arroja un desafío a nuestro
and
intelecto.
so bring it, and we can answer. Of course, that may require some commentaries and so forth.
Obviamente, eso quizás requiera leer ciertos comentarios, ciertas explicaciones vivas.
Put the intellect and reasoning in its place in the context of exercising your reasoning to its fullest measure. So I think that this throw the hands up, it's acintya, is unfortunately an excuse for intellectual laziness,
un tipo de pereza intelectual,
or doing the work oneself, or
uno hacer el trabajo que a uno le corresponde, o
lack of acquaintance with the teaching, such that if you hear the conclusion from someone, you still go, well, I just think it's acintya. That means that, again, you're not willing to use your intelligence spiritually
dispuesto a utilizar tu intelecto
and tax it
espiritualmente
to its full capacity in Krishna's service. And the Gita, Krishna says what? The end of the Gita says, those who study this conversation inside out and upside down, backwards and forwards, and in doing so, explain it to the devotees. They worship me with their intelligence. This is Gyan Yajna. So this is the way, principal way in which we harness our reasoning power to its fullest measure, and in the context of doing so, we realize its limitations. But just to throw up your hand and say it's acintya is a cop-out, so to speak. And it's not how, as you say, as you mentioned, the Veda metaphysic was explained. And that was a nice article in Dr. Kapoor's book, Religion and Philosophy of Sri Chaitanya, where he compares the acintya-bhedabheda metaphysic to that of the Shankar school, to that of Ramanuja, the Madhva and Nimbarka, and Misuse Sampradayas. And that was the favorite part of that book. That was part of a doctoral dissertation, and where part of it was used in court also for resolving some issues during his time. But that chapter of the book was the one that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati liked the most. So it's a very comprehensive explanation there of
muy profunda
possibly
de acintya-bhedabheda.
Devotees to that, but
I
think it's important
to
emphasize that
intellect
it's not going to be used
el intelecto
and applied in Krishna consciousness, then surely it's going to be used for other purposes. But lust resides, according to the Gita, also in the intellect.
So él también reside
you'll have
en el
lust,
intelecto.
if they have enough
tenemos
desire to know about Krishna, well, we've got a lot of information that they can
suficiente deseo
sort
de
out
conocer a Krishna,
and
tenemos bastante
think about from
información
many different angles,
para
and that
pensar
will be good
acerca
for
de esos
them.
diferentes ángulos, y eso va a ser
So I
bueno
hope
para
that's
nosotros.
helpful.
Entonces espero que eso sea de ayuda.
Yeah,
I
very
mean,
much. Thank you.
Sí,
I think
muchas
you knew that
gracias.
mostly, but
Your analysis.
go ahead.
Yeah, but I really appreciate
Eso Maras
it.
dice,
Appreciate having it all put together
aprecio
in
que
one.
haya puesto todo esto puesto junto en un lugar.
Your analysis of
Su
the
análisis
problem
del problema
confirms my
confirma
own feeling whenever
mi
it
propio
comes up.
sentimiento cada vez que
I
surge.
really appreciate your pointing me back to
Aprecio que
the
me
chapter in Dr. Kapoor's
me
book. I'm
dirige-
going to put that on my
Me
list.
dirija al artículo del Dr. Kapoor.
And you've addressed this before,
También usted habló de esto
I
previamente.
was just glad to have the opportunity to bring it up again. That the acintya part is
Y también este punto de que la parte acintya,
the inconceivable part is not the simultaneous one and difference, but the
parte
fact that
inconcebible no es la
Krishna can
simultánea
reconcile that
unidad y
by
diferencia,
his
sino el hecho de que Krishna
energies, which
pueda
are.
resolver esto
I think
a través de
that
sus
is
energías.
really at the kind of the nut of the
Entonces,
distinction.
considero
Thank
que
you so
eso
much.
Let me
tiene que
also
ver con la
refer you
esencia de la
to
distinción.
an article
Permítase
that was
que
written by
quisiera
Srivats Goswami in one of the
referirlo a
publications
un
of
artículo.
Satyaraj.
Ujú.
You could, I can't remember the name of it, where he talked about that. I had referred to the Radharama Goswamis and Srivats Goswami, taking it to in a broader sense.
Guru Maharaj,
Yes.
excuse me, that book is called, I think, Vaishnavism, basically, or something like this.
Yeah, and Srivats Goswami's is almost at the end of that.
What's the book called? Vaishnavism?
Yeah.
Yes.
And has some subtitle regarding different contemporary scholars discussing the Gaudiya tradition or something like that.
Yeah, so his chapter, he discusses acintya-bhedabheda, and he gives that kind of broader
Entonces allí sí la Tipura está
perspective that I
enfatizando
referred
un
to.
artículo escrito por
So we could
Srivats
look at that
Goswami
as
a este
well.
respecto.
Great, thank you
También
so
podría
much.
ver eso.
And
Podría
thank you,
buscar.
Maharaj, and Pranada for the reference.
Can I
Gracias
ask
por
a
la
follow-up
recomendación.
question to that?
Yes.
Is the
Puedo hacer
acintya
una
between,
pregunta de
sometimes
continuación a
people
ello.
say the acintya is between
Algunas personas
Krishna
dicen que la
and his
acintya es
Maya
entre
Shakti,
Krishna y su Maya
but isn't
Shakti.
it also acintya between Krishna and his Swarup Shakti?
Pero también no
Yeah,
podemos hablar de
Krishna
una acintya
has
entre Krishna y su
inconceivable
Swarup Shakti.
powers.
Sí,
is the
Krishna posee
idea.
poderes
He has
inconcebibles.
powers
Esa es
that
la
can do
idea.
things that otherwise
Él
he
posee poderes
would
con los
not be able to
con los
do.
cuales
So
él puede hacer cosas que de
the
otra manera no
relationship
sería capaz de hacer.
between all of his
Pero la
Shaktis in
relación
himself,
entre todos sus Shaktis en sí
it's not
mismos
just the Maya Shakti,
no es únicamente
are
en relación a Maya
part of
Shakti.
what acintya-bhedabheda is
No es que solamente Maya
describing.
Shakti es parte de esta ecuación de acintya-bhedabheda.
All right, so anything else? Got a few minutes only.
¿Algo que más? Nos quedan unos pocos minutos.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's a follow-up to the question about the
Shyamananda
Sakis and
presenta
the
una pregunta
priya-narma-sakhas.
en conexión a la pregunta que hizo Shyamdas hace un momento de los Sakis y
The
los
verse about
priya-narma-sakhas.
Subal in Ujjval
El
Nilamani
verso
describing his
acerca de
service,
Subal,
it says in the
en el
commentary that
Nilamani
it's
que
spoken
escribe
by
su servicio, en el comentario se
Rupa-manjari
dice
to
que
inspire her female friends in devotion to Subal. So I'm wondering, what is this devotion of the Sakis to Subal?
aquí esto habla de una devoción que las Sakis tienen hacia
Radharani
Subal. Me
has
pregunto al respecto.
very strong love for Subal.
Sí, Radharani
It is
tiene un fuerte grupo, un fuerte amor por él.
one of the characteristics of her love.
Esta es una de las características de su amor.
If you love someone, then
No
those
ama
who
a
are
alguien,
dear to him,
todos aquellos que son queridos a esa
you
persona,
also love. So
también los vas a querer.
Subala-sakha, for example, is very
Entonces,
dear
por
to
ejemplo, Subala-sakha, muy querido
Krishna,
a
and
Krishna,
Radharani knows that.
y Radharani
So,
sabe esto,
she has love for him. So their love
por lo tanto
between
ella tiene amor
all the
por él.
devotees love Krishna, and they have love for one another.
Entonces, todos los dos
So
tienen amor por
general
Krishna y tienen
love for
amor
one another is thought to be
entre sí mismos.
serve like a sanchari bhav to
El amor de un devoto por otro se considera como un sanchari bhava, que ayuda a aumentar el sthai bhava, el humor dominante.
So I think it should be looked like that. There's something else I just escaping my memory now that I wrote about this point. I looked it up for you and sent it to you. It's in my book.
Luego lo voy a buscar para esta persona, lo escribí en mi libro.
And it might be drawn from, no, it's drawn from, I think, Ujjwal Nilmani.
Quizás provenga del
But
Ujjwal Nilmani.
it's maybe one of the names of Radha. No, by Radha Das. I can't recall, but I looked it up.
No puedo recordar
How the love of Subal is a characteristic of Radha's love, but I spoke about it here in a general sense. If you understand love psychology, then of course she has great love for Balaram also, and all the friends of Krishna.
No se escuchó bien lo último.
If you love me, as Prabhupada said, and you love
Entonces, con Prabhupada diría, si tú me amas a mí,
are dear to me
amas a mi perro.
as well.
Entonces,
And then, of course, Subal is
no va a querer a aquellos son queridos para mí.
in
Obviamente, Subal
romantic affairs,
todo
in
implicado
particular, amongst
en
Krishna's
asuntos
friends, those
románticos, en
non-sakhas are.
particular entre los
And,
amigos de Krishna,
you know,
los Narma-sakhas.
Subal sacrifices his life in the context of the Lila.
Subal está dispuesto a sacrificar su vida en el marco del Lila para generar la unión de Radha y Krishna.
Be able to unite with one another. So when he makes such
Como que puedan unirse unos con otros.
Efforts and puts himself in such risk,
se pone a sí mismo en cierta situación de riesgo para facilitar esto.
And so yes, the verse, that's a verse in Ujjwal Nilmani, and Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, it's speaking about what service Subal is not have access to. Just see,
¿Qué servicio él no tiene acceso? Solo vea.
Fallen in embrace with Krishna, and there's some hyperbole there, speaking about the condition of Krishna. So extreme,
acerca de la condición de Krishna, tan extrema.
What is for the purpose of making the point of how
Con el propósito de establecer el punto.
The measure to which Subal can be involved in intimate service. So the way in which Krishna is described, being entangled in embrace on the flower bed with Radha is to emphasize the point that he has, there's no service that he does not have access to. Yeah, I think it's right. I think as Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says that this is spoken by Rupa-manjari, right? To inspire love for Subal in another devotee. So gopis should love the cowherd boys. Yes, that's true, especially Subal. So, thank you all for your questions, your interest in subject matter, and to speak about it. And hope to be on next week as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us, and hope everything will get you back on to that Namras's podcast. That was really a wonderful podcast yesterday. So thank you. And everybody, if you could stay on just for some announcements. Okay, just wanted to go over this month's schedule for, if I can pull it up on my phone. Today has not been a good day with technical issues. I apologize to Shamsaki if she's still on here. I did try to actually ask your question, but I thought I unmuted and I hadn't. So, and I am not sure I can find Nanda Kumar's email. with all the schedule on it.
I have it up on my computer. I can get it. That's helpful.
Yeah, that would be helpful if you could just go over it, because I'm not finding it on my phone.
Yeah, let me open it up on my computer. So just kind of like announce.
Yeah, just announce what's happening for them. Yeah, in this.
Okay.
For
May.
For May, yeah.
Okay. Let me go down some. So just start with Monday.
Yeah.
Okay. So so everyone, on Mondays, Padmanabha Swami is giving his classes on Brahmara Gita, the Song of the Bumblebee. And then on Tuesdays, it's classes with Ashram Maharaj, Sharanagati, the Path of Surrender. And then on Wednesdays, Dulal is giving Krishna Sandarbha classes. And then on Thursdays, Archana is going to be doing a new series, The Beauty and the Messiness of the Sadhaka's Journey. So it's going to be like interviews with devotees. And then on Fridays, Brugopad is giving classes, how to give a class, the philosophy and practice of Gaudiya Vaishnava lectures. That's cool. And then on Saturdays, Shamananda is giving classes. It's Arjuna's Yoga of Despair, and the significance of Bhagavad Gita's first chapter. And then obviously on Sundays, there's the Swami Call. Should I also just to specify, I think that everyone already knows this, it's a different meeting ID for the classes from Monday through Saturday.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
Yeah, just one other thing would be Swami will be giving class on Lord Nrsingadev's Appearance Day, which is May 25th. It's a Tuesday, and it'll be 11:30 Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So please put that into your calendar as well. Thank you, Aradhana.
Oh yeah, totally. I'm glad that I had it up on my
I'm glad
computer.
Yeah.
Archana?
Yes, Hare Krishna.
We have an announcement for the European devotees.
Yeah, sure. Yes, please.
Thank you. Just to tell to the European devotees that Padmanabha Maharaj will come to visit us in the month of July. We try to contact all of the devotees in Europe, but some of them don't have Facebook. So we wanted to say during the Swami call. Yeah, he will come the first 2 weeks of July in Bulgaria. Then he will go to Austria. And if anyone wants to participate or anything, can contact someone, maybe me. I will leave the email. Oh, I will leave the email in the chat. Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, I mean, wonderful for you all. We have to share. All right. Well, thank you, all of you wonderful devotees. And I'm going to try to figure out what's going on with Facebook and why I'm not being able to stream to Facebook with Zoom's new. Yes. Yeah, it was not recognizing him as a translator today. And he got off and tried to get back on, and I tried putting him in manually. And it was just, like I said, it was a not a good day for technology. Yeah.
Archana, can you hear me?
Definitely challenging, but anyway, I was just really impressed by Guru Maharaj's just unfazed yesterday. How he just didn't, get. I thought, well, that's really good. I want to be like that, not to get all freaked out when technology goes wrong, because it totally does. And so his example yesterday made me not get all or, today was just like, okay, just is what it is. And I don't have control over it. So wait, we can all practice surrender when we have to work with computers. Okay, so we'll see everybody for soon, I hope, and have a great week. Jai Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Haribol.